Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. We are part of the Paramount Podcast Network. I am Mike Casazza. First day of June, welcoming in Chris Anderson. Chris, busy month on the athletic campus at West Virginia for a whole bunch of reasons. Already kicked off, so to speak, with, well, I guess they couldn't even wait to get going in June. A Memorial Day camp. You were here. No barbecue, unfortunately, but looked to me pretty impressive when you look at the quantity and quality of players. And this parade is going to keep marching down Don Neyland Drive and turning into the practice facility in the stadium all month long for a program that has, frankly, quite a good bit of offseason and recruiting momentum. I guess big picture to start. How big is June shaping up to be for them?
Can we start this off my favorite kind of way, correcting you on something?
Yes, do it.
There was a barbecue on Memorial Day.
No,
I just wasn't invited.
Oh.
The coaching staff and they all got together. I saw them setting it up at the end of camp because that was a point of contention. I bet. I guarantee there were not a lot of people thrilled about having to work a camp for several hours on Memorial Day. I mean, I know I wasn't giddy about it, but as the camp was closing up, I could see them pulling out the tables onto the field, setting things up, starting to bring out stuff for a big picnic, and that is what the staffers and the coaches were getting ready to do, presumably with their families once the camp ended. So I didn't get the invite. I went to my usual. We're gonna see if we get a plug for this before I start plugging their names. See if we get a little ad revenue from this one. But right across the street, if you will, from the stadium, for my usual pepperoni parm and some work afterwards. But everyone else had a nice big picnic after quite a big camp on Memorial Day.
Let me pause for a second here too. That's the first Memorial Day camp they've had, right?
Yes.
Smart or not?
Honestly, I guess it was. When I saw it on the calendar, I said, "Man, that's." Because one, the thought process is you want to be first. You want to be early. You want to try to get guys on. And it used to be the camp schedule, or what was allowed was it was allowed starting June 1st.
Right.
And so when they put it in May, I think there were a couple years back or whatever, they switched it and could be starting that weekend or however the calendar worked out. And they jumped on it to try to have it that first day. And that's something they've done the past couple seasons. But this is the first on Memorial Day. And I saw it. I said, man, what, 70 kids, maybe? Like, I just don't see this being a big one. Like, I just don't see that many people coming. Sure enough, 200, including, a handful of guys that are top targets across multiple classes, including a couple guys who were not camping and just came up to visit on Memorial Day with their family just to check out West Virginia. So I guess there weren't that many people that were, dead set on staying home and having a nice cookout, and they wanted to get out and see West Virginia, and West Virginia made the most of it.
Number two, the barbecue. For the recruits or just the staff and everybody who worked the camp?
Just the staff and everybody that worked the camp.
See, here's the deal. I've overheard this a bunch where people are leaving the facility and they want to get something to eat and they don't know where to go. Like, where should we go? Oh, is there a Chick-fil-A? Is there a Burger King? Yeah, I saw that. And that's fine. That's not the best in Morgantown. I feel like, man, you don't have to go anywhere. Just eat there. It might be a price that they don't want to incur if you're feeding 200 kids. I get that. But I also wonder how many things were open on Monday, too, to go get food. And when all of a sudden Neil Brown's rolling up with a slab of ribs for himself, and this guy's got to go get Taco Bell on the way out of town. That's a tough look. But no,
well, technically they can't. Like, I mean, I guess unless it's an official visit, you can't provide the food. And I guess you can, because they do provide food for like when guys come up for the spring game or an unofficial visit, but they do charge them, whatever it is, $10 to $20. You can't give them free food. So I guess they technically could have had it set out, but then charge food, but then they would have had to open it up for everybody. They couldn't exclude 200 campers there. And what are they serious about? 10, 20 of them, maybe, like in some of those being walk-ons. You can't tell the other 180, see you later. we're going to have a cookout with these other 20. You have to invite all 200. You'd have to charge everybody, and you get into a great big mess there.
We got to change the rules. Let's do it. Let's devote a podcast to this, Chris, because you can't have a Memorial Day camp.
Right.
That's the barbecue celebration of the summer. If you ask me, 4th of July, okay. But that's really the kickoff for the summer, I think. And everybody equates Memorial Day to barbecue. If you're going to have a Memorial Day camp and a barbecue over in the corner, you got to let me in. But oh well, that's another day, another egg we can crack. A number of camps here, but the one I want to ask you about is kind of interesting because this kind of was a thing before, and then it kind of isn't a thing anymore. But they have their big man camps and their 7-on-7s and even their specialist camp, which of course I'll be at. But they're going to DC June 7th for they're visiting, they're speaking, they're performing, I guess, their evaluation and observation and instruction at a camp. But I don't know, it seems like it wasn't too long ago where like this whole concept of satellite camp was a big deal, and it was, I don't know, smart, unethical, all sorts of adjectives were used. And they do one, and it's on Mercer's campus, I believe, fairly regularly, and a lot of people do that. But the DC one to me is new. What do you think about this? What's the idea?
Yeah, I mean, it's closer. It's more likely to be players that they recruit, areas that they recruit. I mean, Mercer's huge, like absolutely enormous. And I think that's where the difference is. I mean, Mercer, you're going to have 50, 60 teams represented there. There are, I think somebody threw out the number to me. I thought it was actually more, but somebody threw out the number of about 400 kids. I actually thought there might be even more than that for the event. Maybe not. But I mean, they had 400 at a camp at West Virginia last year. That was a miserable camp, but I guess if you have more space and 50 representatives there, you can do that. But this one at Catholic, it's going to be on June 7th. I think that one just got moved from the 10th to the 7th, and West Virginia's going to be there. They're going to have at least a couple coaches there. Shadon Brown, who recruits Maryland and Northern Washington, D.C., and A.J. Jackson, who recruits Northern Virginia and southern part of Washington, D.C. area down into Richmond, which is obviously a bunch of area that can easily get to Catholic University. Now, that's two defensive coaches, but my understanding is they're also going to try to figure out an offensive coach or two to send down there as well, so that an offensive eyeball can get on some offensive recruits. And there is the belief that there will be, just based off of where it is and the areas they recruit, a couple dozen kids potentially that they have on their radar, which is a loose term, could be anywhere from like a top target to like a potential walk-on down the road, but a couple dozen, 3 dozen recruits that they want to get eyeballs on and see. So this is a nice opportunity for West Virginia, and it's going to be smaller. It's not going to be like Mercer where there's 50 different coaches there and 400 or 500 kids. It'll be a couple hundred kids probably still, but West Virginia won't be fighting with dozens of other schools to get face time with these recruits that they want to see.
Interesting. It's a good idea. Strategy seems to work, and if it pays off, this is, I guess, the point I'm getting at here too. They can kind of go out and do things now because they have some buzz. Their top 4 recruits from the upcoming recruiting class are the last 4 to commit to the class, all since March, capped off by Rodney Gallagher. Lots of momentum, we think, we presume, and that's the point right now. You may not haul in a ton of 2023 guys right now, but this is obviously with an eye toward the future, 24, 25. We saw 26 out on the field on Monday, too. Near as you can tell, talking to people who are perhaps under the WVU umbrella, but also people who are coming from outside, from different states and surrounding parts to be a part of this. What's the temperature right now? Are people very interested or excited to see this, or is this just like one stop on a tour, as WVU sometimes is?
I think it's red hot. I think a couple of the recruits they picked up, it caught some attention, but can't stress enough how much that Rodney Gallagher decision really was like, oh, wait, really? Huh? You get Trotter, the linebacker from New Jersey, NFL legacy, a guy that had offers from all over the place, and then follow that up with Rodney Gallagher, who had a top 100 player, offers from all over the place, and recruits start to take notice. And I was talking to a capital S source next to another that's very close to one of WVU's top targets, and told me, talking about the players' recruitment. I'm trying not to spoil things here, but and saying, hey, doing this, going there, he's going here, he's going to check out this camp, going to check out this school's involved, and then finished everything, this conversation up with, man, but what they're doing right now here at West Virginia, it seems special. He said that was a big commitment they got the other day, and it seems like their recruiting is really special right now. And that is a family member of another recruit noticing what West Virginia's doing on the recruiting trail, which means it's a topic of conversation in that household, which means it's something that said recruit is taking notice of, and that's great news for West Virginia. So it means something, and I think West Virginia, what they're doing, if they can keep it rolling, it's one of those things where you got to, like, almost like compound interest. You got to, if this momentum stops, it could halt a lot of things. But if you can get another one and another one and another one and kind of just keep it coming, it could really get rolling.
He's the Icarus of recruiting scoops. Chris Anderson, too close to the sun there with the identity.
Yeah, might have been.
Got to be careful. We're fine there. Let's go to other things that are happening on campus here. You have a lot of signees. We're trying to figure out their identities without being like, where's Waldo on Twitter right now, and figure out who these people are. But on campus, working out, in classes, and even if you're not in classes, if you're committed and signed and you're waiting for some, I don't know, online program to begin, you can still work out. And this is interesting because I was looking at this. June is typically a big month, June, July, for NCAA legislation, where they do their meetings and the rules. And most famously last year, the whole NIL debacle got kind of kicked down the road in those months. This year, they kind of waited till, again, this June, July period to figure out what to do on some things. But the big change was that you have that 8 hours a week, that, what do they call it, a summer athletic activity for, let's just stay with football here. You can devote 8 hours a week to it. And it used to be very limited. You couldn't do much. But now 2 of the 8 hours can be used for non-contact skill instruction, which didn't happen before. You could have guys working out, going for meetings, everything that basically, you could have a football. That's the only equipment. But now you can actually do skill instruction, which means a little bit of teaching on the side, getting out in the field and doing things here too. That's a big thing. Even though it seems small, just 2 out of 8 hours for, I think it's a period of maybe 8 weeks that hardly anybody uses all 8 weeks. But a lot of new people coming on the campus for West Virginia. Freshmen are expected to play now, or are expecting to play for fear of the transfer portal. And then you have the transfer portal bringing a lot of people in. This seems like right time for everybody, of course, but obviously for WVU, just to give them, again, just 2 hours a week, but it's 2 hours they didn't have before. This does seem like it can make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, and it seems we've been trending this way for several years now. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where once you got into the summer, it was no contact, if you wanted to work out and you wanted to do stuff for football, you had to do it on your own. You had to rely on, say, your quarterback to call a meeting and, hey, come out and run routes with me, come out and do this. And then they kind of loosened it a little bit. You could do a little more, like you noted, like have meetings and stuff like that. And then, yeah, this extra 2 hours could really make a difference. I think it adds up over time. It's something that'll help these young guys because they'll be able to get into the rhythm of how this team works and who they're working with, and get to know the coaching staff and how they coach before you get to fall camp, instead of having to process all of that at one time that first week in fall camp.
Not just the newcomers, it's a great bridge for people who were here in the spring, either new or in a new role, an elevator role. It's that continuity that can disappear if you had a great spring, or it can certainly deteriorate. This kind of sustains you a little bit, and then you don't have that one step forward in the spring, 2 steps back when you're not doing much. This ought to help too. Finally, let's wrap up the other sport that can have a busy spring. We're keeping an eye, a busy June. Keeping an eye on West Virginia basketball. The numbers still don't match up. 14 players on scholarship. You're only allowed to have 13. There's a name that everybody seems to be using and mentioning out there about a player who could come involved in the picture here soon. He, however, is considering the NBA, and people are going back to Texas. So perhaps that's still on the table too, because he's in the transfer portal from Texas. I'm talking about Courtney Ramey, of course. Some basketball camps here, back to back, 10 through 12, and then 12 through 15. Team camps, individual camps don't get a lot of recruiting attention for basketball camps. It's a different sport in that regard. But this does seem like the icing is in one hand, the cake is on the table. It's probably time to figure out how to do this roster thing. I got to think by the middle of the month, we're going to have an answer here as to how they're going to do this and who's going to be affected.
Yeah, and maybe sooner than that. We're recording this Wednesday, June 1st, early in the morning, putting this up presumably as soon as we get done recording it. And I believe it's midnight tonight, right? That underclassmen have to make a decision on the NBA draft. Is that correct?
I believe you are correct.
And does that mean that Courtney Ramey has to make a decision now on whether to come back? He has to make it today, NBA or not, coming back. And if that's the case, it could be a sign of what his decision is going to be. Whatever that is. And if it is, then that affects what. And if he does elect to come back, and then West Virginia gets into the picture, then that changes what West Virginia has to do with their roster and who's in and who's out and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, one way or another, someone's out. Someone. It could be two someones, depending on Ramey's decision. And then you get into what are you going to do with the second person that's out. But like you said, guys are enrolling. I mean, it's in football, it's in basketball, it's happening now. It's going to happen in the next few weeks. They're. You say June 15th, right? That's what you said, mid-June. I think we have a definitive answer all the way, like a full, definitive, defined 13-man roster, who's in, who's out by June 15th. Absolutely.
Just to clarify here. Let me correct you now. How about that?
Oh,
no. This is not your fault. This is the annually confusing NBA dates. The early entry withdrawal deadline is June 13 for the NBA. The NCAA deadline to keep your eligibility is June 1st today. So why we have this, I don't know. It's bizarre, but these two sides can't link up the dates, and it's a headache for coaches sometimes too. It can be confusing for players. But yeah, I mean, a kind of an in or out thing. And with Ramey, had private workouts, I believe, did not do the combine. That might be an indication, but I wouldn't necessarily say that just because you're not in the combine anymore doesn't mean you're going pro. We've learned that here covering West Virginia. But if teams want to come and see you, and if you're an older player, they know a little bit about you, they're going to have a focused interest. So I wouldn't kick it out of the realm of possibility, but don't expect it. And then from where does he go? He's played this really smart. A lot of spots are filled. There are fewer spots available now, but there are fewer players available. That pool might get replenished with people who decide not to go pro, and they come back and either they don't have a spot, they're already in the transfer portal. A number of players have done that. I plan on transferring. However, I may also stay in the draft, and there's a couple in the Big 12, like Kevin McCullough at Kansas, for example, Courtney Ramey at TBD. McCullough said, I'll go to Kansas if I don't go pro. That's a heck of an option to hold, right? And Ramey's going to be one of those people now, because a lot of I would say high major programs, and certainly programs of his caliber, have needs because they lost players, or have needs because they didn't get who or what they wanted. And they're a high major program, so they're going to be very attractive. And Ramey seems to be one of those players who would float toward the top of the available possibilities for schools. So he will have his hands open, and I'm sure he will have them filled if he decides to come back. And West Virginia is evidently, I'm going strictly on hearsay and what people have kind of whispered to me, but also the googly eyes emoji when Trey Mitchell committed to West Virginia. That's the 2022 way to authenticate things, that West Virginia is an option here. And then you have, okay, now they got to fix this with two players, and the one player thing is going to be a headache. How they do it with two and make it palatable for everybody is going to be difficult. But hey, it's 2022. It's June 1st of 2022. Busy month on campus. Anything in particular you are looking forward to, Chris, besides sunburn?
There's plenty of that to go around. I think I put 4 coats of sunscreen on.
It was hot
on Memorial Day. Yeah, I think last year we got the first camp was like 75 and overcast. This year, just threw you right into the burner. Was it 93 and not a cloud in the sky? And when you're standing down in the stadium on that turf field, it's not 93. It is higher for sure. And that's something. Looking forward to the most. I mean, you know me. I'm a recruiting guy. I love recruiting stuff. This is a huge month for recruiting for West Virginia, and I think these official visits are going to be telling. In not so much in the who and the when on the commitments, because West Virginia will get more commitments, say by July 4th, because as everybody knows and as we've seen over the years, the dead period starts at the end of June, but guys end up, okay, let me take a couple days now that I've taken all my visits in June, and I'll make a decision, and they announce on July 2nd, July 4th, July 6th. That's when a lot of decisions came out last year, including like Jacoby Spells. So that part I'm not concerned about. The who and the what. I think what's most intriguing to me is the how many. How many more high schoolers is West Virginia going to take? Now, they have quote unquote unlimited scholarships. They can get up to 85. They're working on doing that right now. By the way, got clarification from a couple capital P people in the program. Starts right now. Unlimited scholarship starts right now, up to 85, for the total number. It starts for the 2022 class. So they're rolling on that. And they'll be able to do it again in 2023. But if they get up to 85 already, and you also have the transfer portal, and you're still going to have unlimited next time around, do you want to load up on a bunch of high schoolers? Like, I mean, I think in the past we've already said before the unlimited number, like the max was like 18. So you can save a handful of spots for transfers and late guys and junior college players and so on. West Virginia is already at 7. Are they going to get to 12, 13, 14 by July 4th and be basically done with high school recruiting? I think that's this again, like it's not the who is always exciting. The when and are they going to do it on visits, all that stuff, that's always exciting. Camps are exciting, but I think these next few weeks could shape or at least give a picture of what recruiting is going to be like for the foreseeable future. And that's what's most intriguing to me.
What a shift, huh? Just one little, I shouldn't say little, but one tweak like that is really going to have major reverberations in the way you just described right there too. So, hey, another reason to stay tuned here. June 1st, beginning of the month, great time to sign up for VIP. Always something going on. And hey, the campus looks really good too. Your video and all the upgrades and the housekeeping and the presentation. Hey, good job. I enjoyed watching that. Even though I live here and I can go out and watch it whenever I want without having to hold a video camera, but it was kind of a good behind the scenes of how they have this place dressed up and ready to go.
Yep.
Until then, news will break. We're sure we'll be here when it happens. I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you then.